General Hospital spoilers tease that Rocco Falconeri's world is about to spin off its axis, beginning with a single fateful night that sends shockwaves through his family and exposes long-buried secrets that will change Port Charles forever. It started as a rite of passage, a bonfire party on the sands of Port Charles University's secluded beach, where the air was thick with salt and possibility. Moonlight danced across the waves as laughter and music wove through the night. Rocco Falconeri, often the quiet observer amid his boisterous peers, had been coaxed into attending by Danny Morgan, the outgoing senior with a devil-may-care grin. "Come on, little man," Danny had teased, looping his arm through Rocco's. "Time to break out of your shell." Rocco had hesitated. Between his studies, his part-time internship at General Hospital, and the protective shadow of his father Dante Falconeri and mother Lulu Spencer, college life felt like uncharted territory. But Danny had promised camaraderie, a chance to belong. With a tentative smile, Rocco agreed. He'd brought along a flask Danny supplied, a little something to ease the nerves, Danny had said. Rocco took only a sip at first, the warm burn out on his tongue, a novelty rather than a vice. As the flames soared and the night deepened, Danny circled back with another offer. "Bottoms up," he urged, pressing a plastic cup into Rocco's hand. Peer pressure, a tidal force stronger than any lecture from Dante, swelled within Rocco. He drank again, and again, each gulp less cautious, more desperate to fit in. Around him, Danny clapped and jeered, egging him on, while Rocco's head began to throb, the edges of his vision darkening. That's when the world tilted. One moment, Rocco was laughing at a joke he barely heard. The next, his knees buckled. The sand slipped away as he hit the ground, clutching his stomach, ball rising in his throat. The bonfire's glow warped into an eerie halo around him. Students shouted, scrambling back in alarm as Rocco's lips turned ghost white. He tried to speak, but only a gurgled whisper escaped. "Help!" His eyelids fluttered, and the darkness claimed him. Dante and Lulu were far from that beach. They trusted their son to handle college life. But that trust shattered in an instant when the call came. Rocco was in the emergency department of General Hospital, unresponsive, his vital signs sinking fast. Dante's world constricted to a tunnel of fear as he sprinted through the hospital's sliding doors, Lulu at his heels, warnings of code blue, echoing down fluorescent-lit corridors. In the trauma bay, doctors and nurses swarmed around Rocco's gurney. Monitors cuffed around his chest beeped erratically as 4 lines snaked toward his arm. Dr. Nguyen, the on-call attending, met Dante's frantic gaze with practiced calm. "He's suffering acute alcohol toxicity," she explained. "His blood alcohol level is dangerously high, above a lethal threshold. He's at risk of respiratory failure, aspiration, organ shutdown." Lulu sobbed softly, gripping Dante's hand. "Is he going to make it?" she whispered, voice trembling. Dr. Nguyen's jaw tightened. "We're doing everything we can, but if his liver and kidneys fail, he may need an organ transplant to survive." The word struck Dante like a blow. Transplant? For Rocco? He swallowed hard, feeling blood drain from his face. What organs he managed? Primarily his liver, the doctor said. In cases of acute alcohol poisoning this severe, the liver can be irreversibly damaged. "We'll run compatibility tests, but in the worst-case scenario, we'll need a donor, preferably a family member." Dante's mind raced. He and Lulu had discussed the possibility years ago if anything ever happened to one of us, but never when it involved their son. He turned to Lulu, eyes rimmed red. "We have to be tested. Now." Within the hour, Dante lay on a gurney in the adjacent room, a phlebotomist drawing blood for HLA typing, liver enzyme panels, and cross-matching. Lulu followed, then Charlotte Cassadine, Rocco's godmother and close family friend, volunteering without hesitation. Each test sent back to the lab, the weight stretched taut with terror. When the first results arrived, Dr. Nguyen's expression flashed regret. I'm sorry, she said softly to Dante. You're not a match. Dante clenched his fists as his world cracked further. Lulu and Charlotte likewise received negative results. Their blood and tissue markers were incompatible. A collective groan of despair rose from the small cluster of family in the waiting area. Time was bleeding away for Rocco. Without a viable donor, his odds plummeted. Then Gio Palmieri entered the fray. A young doctor at General Hospital with a calm demeanor and earnest eyes, Gio had been working closely with Dr. Nguyen. He'd already helped stabilize Rocco's initial crisis and learned from the gossip-rife corridors what was at stake. When Dr. Nguyen suggested they ask Gio to volunteer as a potential donor, he did not hesitate. He donned a fresh gown and followed the phlebotomist into the testing room. As Joe's blood was drawn, another figure lingered at the door, Lois Cerullo. Rocco's grandmother by marriage, Lois had come to the hospital frantic, having heard of Rocco's collapse. She watched Gio quietly, as if her mind was racing through memories. When Gio emerged, his face pale, hopeful, Lois pulled him aside into a private alcove. Gio, she whispered, voice trembling. There's something you need to know. Gio frowned, sensing urgency. Lois took a deep breath, eyes glistening. You're not just any doctor. You're Dante Falconeri's son. Shock exploded across Joe's face. What? That's impossible. Lois's lips quivered. Years ago, your mother Brooklyn Quartermain and Dante, before he and Lulu married, you were born. Your existence was kept secret. Gio staggered back, the world tilting. All this time, he breathed. Lois nodded. I'm sorry I lied for so long. But Dante needs you now more than ever. Rocco's life depends on you. Tears welled in Joe's eyes. Tears of betrayal, confusion, and the dawning weight of brotherhood. He slipped back to the testing room, Lois trailing behind to explain the hidden history to Dr. Nguyen. When results came back minutes later, the staff gathered. Dr. Nguyen held the printout with hands that trembled slightly. Gio is a perfect match. Relief washed over Dante and Lulu like warm sunlight after a storm. Gio, shaking, approached them. I never knew, he said, voice thick with emotion. I'm your brother, Rocco. Rocco, still unconscious, lay pale and fragile under the sterile lights. Yet a spark of hope ignited in his parents' hearts, an unknown son of Dante's from another life, and now his salvation. Dr. Nguyen prepared Gio to serve as the living liver donor. When Gio emerged from the pre-op area, gown-tied and hooded cap skewed at a jaunty angle, he gave Dante a tentative smile. Let's bring Rocco back. In the hushed operating suite, the transplant team moved like clockwork. Dante hovered at the window, exiled from the sterile field but present in spirit, as he watched his two sons united in purpose. The machines whirred, the LED surgical lights blazed. A new chapter in Falconeri history was being written in blood and hope. Hours later, as dawn's first pale fingers edged across the sky, the transplant concluded. Dr. Nguyen emerged, mask tucked under her arm, face grave but determined. She met Dante and Lulu at the foot of the operating room doors. It went as well as we could have hoped, she said. Joe's surgery was challenging but successful. He tolerated the resection beautifully. The donated segment of his liver is now in Rocco. We'll know more in the next 24 to 48 hours. Dante exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He stepped forward, pulling Gio into a fierce embrace. Thank you, he whispered hoarsely. You saved his life, and mine. Gio, pale but resolute, returned the hug. He's my brother, he said simply. I'd do anything. Lulu, tears streaming, joined them. Together, they formed a trembling triangle of newfound family, a testament to secrets revealed, heartbreak weathered, and the unbreakable bonds of blood. In the ICU, Rocco lay nestled among monitors that beeped a steady, hopeful rhythm. His chest rose and fell with mechanized precision, but the warmth returning to his skin spoke of life fighting back. Dante and Lulu flanked his bed, hands clasped, eyes weary but bright. Inside the private waiting room, Lois Cerullo sat across from Brooke Lynn Quartermain, who had been called in upon learning Joe's role and her own daughter's hidden history. Brooke Lynn's face was a tapestry of regret and relief. "I should have told him," Brooke Lynn murmured, voice thick with remorse. "I wanted to protect him, from Dante's world, from all the danger." Lois placed a gentle hand over her shoulder. "We protected him at too high a cost. But now we can do right by him, and by your daughter and Rocco." As the morning sun spilled into the room, casting golden stripes across the floor, Brooke Lynn nodded. "We'll face it together." Back in the ICU, Rocco's monitor flatlined for a moment. Praxis in medicine that sickens any parent's heart, but then blipped back to life. Dante felt Lulu's fingers tighten around his. Their eyes met, communicating a single, silent truth: miracles still existed. Over the next days, the Falconeri household transformed into a nexus of healing and homecoming. Gio, discharged early thanks to modern donor care protocols, arrived at the family home carrying a bouquet of yellow daisies, Rocco's favorite. He stepped through the door into a scene of cautious celebration, Molly at the table, coloring intricately, while Lulu prepared a gentle broth for Rocco's first tentative sips. Rocco, pale but smiling, sat propped on pillows. When Gio knelt beside him and offered the daisies, Rocco's eyes lit with recognition and joy. "Thanks, bro," he whispered. "I owe you big time." Gio grinned, ruffling Rocco's hair. "We're brothers," he said. "You don't owe me anything." In the living room, Dante and Lulu exchanged a look weighed by the night's revelations and triumphs. The family had grown, unexpectedly, under dire circumstances, but grown stronger all the same. Not every secret was yet laid bare. Dante and Brooke Lynn would have talks about their past. Lois would grapple with guilt and forgiveness. But for now, every heart in that room beat to the same rhythm: relief, gratitude, and unshakable love. As the sun set on that first day of reckoning, Port Charles's sands no longer held only the memory of a reckless party. They held the echoes of a family's resilience, the birth of a new brotherhood, and the promise that, no matter how dark the night, a new dawn always waits.